Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about my life and my testimony. And how God has got me through it. Now, I'm not very good with talking about it like this, so I'm just going to say it flat out. I'll start from the beginning and then I'll move forward. When I was a kid, my life already began to take a turn for the worse, I was God allowed me to be born into hell so that He could pull me out and so that He could use me to tell other people that there's a way out in Him. So I'm going to tell you about what hell is like, and if you can relate to that, you need to understand that Jesus Christ will get you out of that, just the same way He got me out. I was born into a divorce. My parents got divorced when I was 2 years old. It was a brutal divorce. There was a divorce battle when I was a kid. Essentially, there was a great deal of physical and emotional pulling me from one direction to the other. I felt like it was like I had to choose one parent over the other. And the pressure was so great for me to emotionally abandon my mother that throughout the various years of this divorce battle, which were approximately 3 to 4 years in the wake of the actual divorce, that eventually it was like I ended up choosing emotionally my father and my then stepmother, because there was so much pressure put on me from that side of the family that the tension was was palpable rather. As a result, that gave me a great deal of issues of separation about my mom, not feeling like I had my mom, because I would still be with her on the weekends, but that really, really hurt my mother. It really hurt me too. No person should have to be emotionally ripped apart from your mom, But it happened. And then this is the part where I say what God did. I guess He was patient and He let me go through that part, He put me where I needed to be. He put me right in the belly of Satan. There was a family member of mine around the same time who molested me. And when I say that, I've said it so many times by now that it doesn't seem to have as much of the emotional impact as it did, other than the fact that it completely changed my outlook about people. It was like being initiated into the cult of Satan and his cult of hell. It was not so much of an act of molestation. I don't know why, but these people in my life, the very beginning of my life, it was like I was raised in Satanism, pure and unadulterated Satanism. When I look back on it, it's amazing how me as a baby could go through all that as a child. God was with me every step of the way. I didn't know it, And honestly, when I start telling my testimony, this is the part where usually when I tell it, I'd be skippity-doo-dah about it. But I'm going to say this seriously, because I believe God doesn't want me to skippity-doo-dah through it. God was with me through some really hardcore moments of my life. serious crap. Emotionally, I should be dead. I should be emotionally and physically dead by now. Most people that I know, I mean, they're. I don't think they've really encountered Satan before. I don't think they understand him quite like I do. I would say there's a few people who do, but I mean, I basically lived with him for years. I know what he's like. I know what he thinks about and his people. That molestation was like a initiation into some cult, some evil sexual cult that even to this day, it's not that I'm a part of it, but it seeks me out, kind of like the same way the mob might seek out a defector. They don't quite let go of people, you know. The Lord's with me, and I'm not afraid of these people, but they're very evil, persistent people, and all they live for is self-gratification and Satanism. So I was going through these two things, divorce battle and molestation. And forgive me if I sound like it's some kind of a like docket of things to talk about, you know, like a list, but that's the only way I know how to present it. The Lord was still with me in these things. Then after that was pretty calm for a while. But I had some family members, they wanted to make me conform to their lifestyle. They wanted me to be a certain kind of person. Essentially, you know, and this is where I start thinking of the Great Words book, but I'm going to try to stay away from that. In short, they wanted me to accept a view of life that was contrary to what I believe in. They wanted me to be involved in the collegiate world of, I guess you would say, social liberalism. They wanted me to be involved with the LGBT movement. They wanted me to be involved with all these things. So from a very early age, this was pushed on me. And the only thing I learned from these things that God showed me was the humanity of it. He showed me the difference between people who are just trying to make it through life, who are either confused or... Because, I mean, in the LGBT movement, there are some great people that are lovely people. I love them, you know. They're just, you know, confused about stuff, you know. And they would probably hate me if I said that. But I can't help but not remember many people that they're just looking for love and to be loved like everybody else. But unfortunately, you know, that phrase, looking for love in all the wrong places, well, they're part of the same problem. And let me say this, it's not just people in that movement either that are doing that. It's a lot of people, really. I mean, they're no different from anybody else in that way. You know, people are looking for love in the wrong places. But then there's some in the movement that I've met who are with Satan, and they like to hurt people. And actually, I'm going to say this. I'm going to be bold about saying it. There's some in that movement who are really not homosexual. They're really pedophiles. Bam. So guess what? One day, whether it's here or in another place, maybe in the afterlife, they're going to get found out someday. They're liars. They're playing the gay card so that they can't get caught for the other one. Just crap. But anyway, continuing on. My mom was looking spiritually too. She'd been through everything. the whole gamut of religion. She's checked them out, different philosophies, beliefs, and in that turn, you know, I saw different things too. But God always had a way of showing me what was good and what wasn't good right off the bat. Like, one thing was, my mom was associated with somebody at one time that was a white supremacist. And at the very same time, you know, I had a third grade teacher who's Jewish. So on the one hand, God showed me this is a white supremacist and what they think. And on the other hand, I was seeing the person they were saying they hated, and I said, this is the other person, the Jewish person. This is what they're like. And it was obvious to me from a very early age that white supremacy was dumb. You know, I understand the fear of it, the fear that people who are white supremacists feel because they feel like they're outnumbered. But really, I've spent so much time with other races of people, you know, black, white, Hispanic, you know, Middle Eastern, you know, East Asian, don't matter. I've spent so many time where I know that that's not true. And oftentimes all it takes for them to know that it's not true is to just reach out to people, you know. Basically, there's bad people in every group. It doesn't matter which one it is. There's some good people in every group too, you know. So I was going through that. It was kind of a weird process. I was about 8, 9 years old at that time, maybe 10. Paganism was hot and heavy around this time. It had it from multiple sources, you know, witchcraft, the like. So I developed a nostalgia and a fondness for that at a very early age. Now, when I talk about these things and what I was doing, some of it I still don't even understand what God was doing, but it must have just been for the purpose of learning about these different things so I could use it to minister to other people. Because I'm like, wow, it don't make sense to me, but it does, you know. You see how there's a lot to unpack. It's hard to do that. I mean, I'd have to do it over multiple videos. So I'm just doing a summary now. But another thing about witchcraft and the occult, which was a prevalent force in my life, by the way. I guess the best way I can put it is that people don't take it seriously. They think it's funny, it's a joke, it's not real. It is real, by the way. You will communicate with demons, forces of darkness that are connected to Satan. In fact, you will be connected to them whether you like it or not. It's not an option if you like it or not. If you play with those kind of things, you're going to be connected to them. So if you pull out a tarot deck or take out a Ouija board or you scry or whatever you want to do, divination, even a magic 8-ball, you could get that. You could even get that silly. It's not silly. You're dealing with forces you don't really understand, and if you understand them, you're really in over your head because you're dealing with the wrong team. You're in trouble. Because I'll tell you what, and I'm going to say it bluntly, and I'm going to say it very bluntly. In fact, demons love nothing better than to spiritually sodomize human beings. They love to rape us and hurt us in every way. They do not like you. They do not want to give you anything. They will use things to entice you to do their work for them. And then they discard you like a piece of trash. And the reason they do is because they hate the image of God. They will never, ever find any kind of reason to quote-unquote love you. They don't even have the capability of loving anyone. So the next time you cast a circle, or you read a book on witchcraft, or you crack open a Harry Potter book, or whatever it is, you need to realize that you got a whole group of demons out there that would love to torture you like a piece of meat, like an animal. So don't even bother messing with them. In fact, if you want real power, you need to approach Jesus Christ and get saved and get the power of the Holy Spirit, because you have authority over these people, these demons, rather. I have no sympathy for them. They need to go to hell and rot and burn for eternity for their rebellion against God. That's all I'm going to say about that for this moment, because I need to carry on. See, teenager years came, same awkwardness, but my teenage years weren't exactly normal, because instead of socializing and learning how to be social, I became more reclusive, listened to darker music. My musical taste became darker, got more into the occult. Around the age of 14, got into pornography, started talking to people online that were much older than I was, in chat rooms, role-playing with them, etc. And by the way, it wasn't, some of it was okay, but most of it was involved in sexualized role-play, I still kind of lived a normal life on the side. And even in that life, I still got into dark music, into dark culture and stuff. I think when I get to about age 20, I'll make a part 2 just for the sake of length for the video. Just because, it might be a little long. So, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm around, say, 15 now. But God was patient there. Let me go through all that too. I remember really not even hearing God. I was really far from Him. I can see a big cloud of darkness in my head when I was around that age. About 17, I got up with different religious groups. First one I got up with were Unitarian Universalists, which is basically like an ecumenical religion where it's like a choose your own religion kind of thing, like a buffet. You can do as you please. Really, it's just a portal to get involved in different religions, or to satiate a desire for fellowship that mankind has, spiritual fellowship that you could be getting with Jesus Christ in the church, but you really can't get it from them. I tried, I felt good, at the time, like I was being loved and cared about, but what I don't realize is that it was just a need for self-esteem, a love of family that I wasn't getting. So in a sense, although I wouldn't necessarily say that UUism is exclusively a cult, I would say that there's some segments of the organization that seem cult-like to me, but that's just my personal opinion. But I got hot and heavy into the paganism again. And honestly, what I remember from that time was that, and I should have taken it, it was lamer than I thought it was. Paganism was already lame to me back then. I didn't even realize it. But I wanted something so bad spiritually that I was willing to bypass the lameness of it and move. But I didn't understand that I had a God that really wanted to have a relationship with me. But there were some times, like whenever I'd see a Bible show come on, like the History Channel or whatever, Oh, I'd get really excited, and I watched that. I would watch it like you wouldn't believe. I'd be like so excited, and they played that music, that old school like ancient music. I'd be like, wow, yeah, I'm gonna watch this about this movie, or I'm gonna watch this show about Abraham or Moses or Lot or whatever, and I would be really excited. I was taught that Christianity was bad, by the way, so it was almost like taboo to even want to be involved in it. But still interesting to me nonetheless. There are little glimpses that came through. You know, every so often Jesus would knock and come in and he'd start talking to me, and then I'd talk to him a little bit and lose interest and go back to what I was doing, and he'd leave and just wait, you know. I remember those times, though. They were very fun times. I'd just be watching it, and they would be like, wow, I'm watching this. And I got excited about it, like really excited. So, I guess late teens again. I went to college. This is the last thing I'll talk about before I start another video. I went to college for 4 years, and in it I got into, sex and drinking and classes about like religions like Buddhism and stuff like that. I studied rabbinical Judaism, which was interesting because I still had this burning feeling of support for Israel, even in college. I could never get behind the Palestinian thing, and I still never can. And the thing is, in college, I remember studying that part of it, and then studying Buddhism, which something I had always been interested in as a kid, and I just studied it more, and I got indoctrinated with it. And then also studying occultic things again, and it was just more exploration of, things. God brought me again to the Chapel House and tried to get me connected to Cornerstone Campus Ministry, and I didn't even pay attention to it, early on. I just lived a life of hedonism. At that time, I was having gender identity issues too, so I was cross-dressing at that point. I got an angry letter from somebody in my family who oddly enough supported that kind of thing, saying that I was just doing it to be essentially smart about it and not really seriously fulfilling the lifestyle. And and what would be interesting is her friends would have applauded me and thought I was great for doing it and brave. I mean, what kind of person does it as a joke? I mean, that's an odd way of doing a joke, right? It's funny. Odd that they want to do a joke like that against people. They would laugh at that person because the person's actually doing exactly what they're protesting against. So that doesn't make any sense. That was crazy. I grew out of that phase. I grew out of that phase. And when college ended, after all that spiritual mess I was in, the last thing I did for college was I went to Guatemala for a while. Got more into spiritual paganism, did some rituals with Mayans. Still, Jesus was waiting for me. Still involved in that whole experience. A lot of what the Lord was doing was waiting on me. He was waiting on me to show up. Well, I'm going to stop here and then I'll make another video to finish it off.